you guys are in for a treat. We've got two good friends from baseballreference.com, Jonah Gardner and Zoe Surma, and we are going to listen to Jonah and Zoe talk about using baseball reference data in your research. So let's go ahead and turn it over to Jonah and Zoe. Zoe, hey guys.
Hey Scott, thank you so much for having us. Thanks to everyone who is here today for our presentation. We really appreciate y'all joining virtually. Very excited to talk to you about what you can find on Baseball Reference and our websites, and how to incorporate it in your research. So for starters, Zoe and I will introduce ourselves. So I can go first. My name is Jonah. I have been working at Sports Reference, which is the parent company for Baseball Reference since 2015. And my current role is a product marketing manager. So I do a lot of stuff with our StatHead product, which is going to be something that y'all will find very, very interesting if you aren't already using it. And then Zoe, why don't you take it away from there?
Yeah, so I'm Zoe. I started working here back in 2021, so it's hard to believe it's almost 3 years, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, I mainly work on the development side, especially like the basketball sites mainly, but I can still do some baseball, so that's what I'm here for today.
So the way this will go is for the first 20 minutes or so, I'll kind of take you through how you can find stuff on Baseball Reference and StatHead. I'll probably focus more on that because I think that y'all are probably pretty familiar with the Baseball Reference website at this point. And then Zoe will walk you through, once you've found your data on the site, if you want to do sort of more complex stuff, how you take it off the site and how you work with it in your own on your own computer. And if you have any questions along the way, feel free to drop them in the chat. At any point, we'll be happy to answer them. We'll also try to leave some space at the end for Q&A if you all have questions for us then as well. So I'll go ahead and get us started here by sharing my screen. There we go. Sorry, there we go. Oh, I have two Chrome windows open. Okay, 1 second. Sorry. Let me close that guy. And now let me share this screen again. The problem of having too many tabs, as usual. Oh, apologies to everyone. I don't have my screen sharing set up because I just got this computer this week. So I'm going to have to drop off for 1 second and I will come right back and be able to share and start the presentation. So very sorry, everyone. I'll be right back.
I guess it's just me in charge now, right? No.
Zoe, you're going to have to entertain us all while Jonah restarts, right? Not really. Not really.
Have any jokes? I don't have any jokes in there.
Well, Steve made a good connection or a good question while we're waiting for Jonah to come back. What's the best way to get in touch with you if you wanted to connect? Is it LinkedIn, email? Folks would love to connect.
Yeah, LinkedIn definitely works for me. I think that's probably the easiest. And then I can accept you guys, and we can get connections.
Yeah, that's a great question. I would recommend that anybody, if you want to add me on LinkedIn, feel free to do so. When we get to our networking session at the end of the day, that'll be something that we will encourage you to make LinkedIn connections with your peers and students here on this call as well, because we want you to be able to expand your network. It looks like Jonah's back, so let's try to get him dialed in.
All right, there we go. Sorry about that, everybody. You've just discovered why Zoe works in engineering and I work in marketing. The computer's not my strong suit, but there we go. We've got this going. So can you all see my screen now? Can you see the Baseball Reference homepage?
Yes, sir.
All right, great. So I'm not going to belabor sort of this. I assume that most of you, if you're on this call, have been to the Baseball Reference homepage before. And you've probably also been to the player pages. We've got the search bar up top. One thing I like to point out to people, because I honestly missed it until I started working here, but there's way more to the player pages than just this one page that I used to go to all the time. We have this gray bar that takes you to different places. So you can go, in addition to seeing, this is Ellie De La Cruz. So in addition to his sort of main page, you can see his minor league stats and winter league stats. And if he had played in foreign leagues, we'd have that as well. We have Japanese league, Korean league, all kinds of foreign league stats. And in winter leagues, we have college stats now on here too. So you can see all of that by clicking on this link. Then we have split stats. So if you're looking for situational stuff, I always get furious when I'm watching a broadcast and they tell me, you know, in 5 bases loaded plate appearances, this guy had 1 for 5 or whatever, and it's like that's not relevant really. But if you're looking for that sort of thing, you can find it on here, and you can see a range of splits, starter and sub, wins and losses, you know, position, batting order position, all that. So that's splits. We also have a game log for every player. So you can go and see every single game by game of player stats. And we've got this cool kind of like rolling batting average OPS stuff here. You can see their batting order position, where they played on the field for every single game. And obviously, Ellie's a rookie, but you could see this for any player, no matter how long their career. And then there's this page, Finders and Advanced Stats. So I'll take you to Advanced Stats very quickly. This is where we have a lot more kind of in-depth or second level stats. So you can see sort of stuff like hard hit rate and exit velocity. Here you can see win probability stuff, stuff like BABIP. We have some really interesting in-depth base running stats, which for someone like Ellie De La Cruz is probably going to be pretty interesting to look at. Situational hitting, all kinds of cool stuff like that. And then we have all of these things that are called finders. And I'm going to circle back to those in 1 second, because that is really where like the true sort of in-depth research can happen here. But one thing I just wanted to point out about Baseball Reference, if you're not fully aware, is just the depth of our historic coverage. So we have stats all the way back to the very, very early days of baseball, the 1800s. You know, there's 1876, first year of the NL. There's 1901, the first year of the AL. All the way back to 1901, we have game logs for every single game. So you can look and see, you know, how many times Babe Ruth hit 2 home runs in a game, right? Or how many times Ty Cobb got 4 hits, stuff like that. The other thing I want to point out is that thanks to the hard work of a lot of researchers at a place called Seamheads, we have a good collection of Negro League stats for the major Negro Leagues. So these are very cool things. These are very cool stats to explore and to look around, and all of them are incorporated into our leaderboards. There's some cool writing and sort of information on our site that goes into how the researchers at Seamheads in the Hall of Fame and SABR put this sort of stat collection together. You know, why we're presenting it the way we did, how the database was built. So if you're interested in that sort of research in the more historical stuff, I would really recommend taking a look at this, and also just kind of looking around the site. So that's my quick sort of like 10 minutes of Baseball Reference. And if you all have questions about what you can find on the Baseball Reference site itself, feel free to drop them in the chat. But I think that for your purposes, you're going to be really interested in what you can do with StatHead. So StatHead is our sort of like paid second level research site. And what it is designed for is the questions that come up as you're looking around Baseball Reference. So to go back to Ellie De La Cruz's page, if I'm looking on his stats and I say, oh, that's interesting, he had 35 steals last year and a .410 slugging percentage. I wonder, is that the highest slugging percentage by anyone who's had, 35 steals in a season? And the only way to check this out on Baseball Reference without StatHead would be to just kind of sit there and remember some guys, right? And just kind of think, hey, I think maybe Ricky Henderson probably, might have done something like that, or this other player I remember might have done something like that. So StatHead makes it super duper easy to answer questions like that. So on the base level, I'm going to start by showing you how to look up the answer to that question. So 35 steals, highest slugging percentage. We would go to the first thing is to figure out which of these tools we want to go to. You'll see that they're called finders, and they're based on like season, there's games, there's split stats, streaks, spans, all kinds of different stuff. So for this one, this is a very basic search. We're looking at his single season stats. So we are going to hop into the season finder. He's a hitter, so we'll be looking in player batting stats. And you'll come to a page like this, and you'll see a table that's kind of similar to the kind of table you would see on Baseball Reference. But along the side here, you'll see all of these sort of filters that you can add and take off and remove and put on based on what you're looking for. So in this case, we're looking for a few things. The first thing we're looking for is every player who had 35 steals in a season. So I'm going to go to these statistical filters and pull up stolen bases and do 35. Where we're looking for rookies, because that was something that I was interested in. Not first year. Oh, it's under status. So because the MLB rookie rules are a little complex, you could look for under biographical filters the first year of a player's career, but that's not necessarily going to get their rookie season, because a lot of players will come up in September and play 6 at-bats and then be a rookie the following season. So instead, we're going to go to status and select rookie status. And you'll see there's kind of all of these different sort of historic measures. We're going to stick with AL. We'll do AL, NL rookie here. So now we're looking for rookies with 35 stolen bases. Actually, I'll do any. And then we're going to sort by slugging percentage. So now I'm going to run this search. And I forgot one very crucial thing that you'll see in one moment. Yeah. So I forgot to turn the year on, which means that it was only searching 2023. So let's run this search again. Again, I work in marketing. I'm not very good with technology, but this is super easy to use. So we can see here now the list of every rookie who had 35 or more steals in their rookie season, and sort of how they rank and they're ranked in order of slugging percentage. So here's Elly De La Cruz. He is number 28 on our list, which doesn't seem super impressive, but you can also sort by year. So one thing you can do with our tables is you can actually change them up a little bit. So now that I have this sorted by slugging percentage, what if I want to sort everyone from Elly De La Cruz up by year? There's a way to do that with the StatHead search, but what I'm going to do instead is go up here to export data, which we'll be using later when Zoe shows you how to take our stuff off of Baseball Reference. And you would click Modify and Export and Share Table, and then scroll down to Elly De La Cruz, and hit this sort of home plate looking arrow with an X, and that takes out everyone below him. And now you sort by season. And you can see, oh, hey, there's only been 3 people since 2010, but 2 of them came this year. Kind of makes sense given the stolen base rules and the changes and stuff. But we've got Corbin Carroll and Elly De La Cruz both here, first to do it since Mike Trout in 2012. So that looks a little more interesting. And if you are someone who likes to share stats, if you're a content creator on social media who posts stats, or if you're preparing a research report on, something, that sort of thing can be super useful. So that's the quick sort of 50,000 foot overview of how you set up a StatHead search, and that goes across all of the tools. So when you're going into StatHead, the first question you want to ask is, what data set am I trying to search? Is it a single season or multi-season sort of combined stats? In that case, I'd be looking in the season finder. Am I pulling from the game logs? In that case, I would be looking in the game finder, even if it's maybe something over the course of a season. Like if I'm looking for the most multi-home run games in a season, that's searching the game log, so I want to go into the game finder. Am I looking for split stats or streaks? And then there's 2 that I want to show you that are a little sort of next level. So one of them is the Span Finder. This tool is really cool because when I started at Baseball Reference sort of 9 years ago, this was the sort of thing that people were asking for all the time. And it seemed like it was just like impossible to design something that could do this, given the complexity of the search. But as our engineering team grew and as we got people like Zoe in, we ended up cracking how to make this work. So now what you can do is search for combined stats from any sort of span of games. If I want to see who hit the most home runs last season in any 50-game span, I can do that in here. I would just change under span length to 50. I would search here for seasons, and it'll give me home runs. It can also has these fun span options. So a cool one, there's start and end of season, there's start and end of career, but an interesting one is start or end of stint with franchise. So if someone, if Shohei Ohtani hits a bunch of home runs with the Dodgers in his first, let's say, 25 games, and I want to see if that's the most home runs anyone has hit with a new team in their first 25 games, I would click that. I would do 25. I would do seasons, sort by home runs, and then I'd run the search. And these are a little, as you can see on this note, it's a little data intensive. So I'm not going to make it sit here and wait for the results if this takes a while. But in a minute or two, what will pop up is a list of the players with the most home runs in their first 25 games after joining a new team. So you would see stuff like maybe Freddie Freeman when he joined the Dodgers, or whenever players get traded, when they join new teams, you can search by that, which I think is a very cool feature. So the Span Finder is a really powerful tool that will help you, especially with sort of in the moment stuff, last 50 games or any 50-game span, that sort of thing. But I'm not going to have us sit here and wait for that because it does take some time, because it's searching. If you think about it, what it's doing is searching every possible 25-game span that can match the result, which could be quite a lot, depending on how broad you set the search parameters. The last thing I want to point out is the Event Finder, which searches our play-by-play data. So in addition to our game logs and our sort of season-by-season stats, we have a pretty extensive collection of play-by-play data. So it is, depending on the stat, it goes pretty far back. And as far as 1914, we have a decent amount of play-by-play data for every game. We also have every play in postseason history. As you can see, there's stuff like pitch counts. We have data all the way back to 1988. Before that, unfortunately, it wasn't really reliably recorded, so it kind of depends on the team and the game and stuff. But you can use this to really put together a super narrow, super in-depth search if there's something really specific you're looking for. So just as an example, if I wanted to search for let's say like full count bases loaded home runs, I would, instead of having the filters along the side the way they worked before, they're along the top. So you click on the sort of situational things you want. So through full count, bases loaded. Let's throw in ninth inning to just get as dramatic as possible. And let's say team is trailing by 3. I can do that too. And then I hit get results, and it's going to search our database and pull up every play that we have in the Baseball Reference database that matches these results. So there's actually only one play like this where it was genuinely down 3 runs, bases loaded, full count, the most dramatic situation possible. Alan Trammell hits this walk-off home run. So that's the kind of thing you can do in the play-by-play finder, where you can get super narrow with pitch count, and obviously there's the caveat that pitch count only goes back to 88. So there were probably more plays like this before the 80s that we did not capture in this search. But that's the kind of thing you can do, and you'll see there's all kinds of different. There's park, there's batted ball type, there's where the ball landed, where it was hit, how many pitches the at bat took, opponent, batter, hitter, all of that stuff. So Event Finder and Span Finder are two of the tools that are a little more complex than the other ones, but I think that depending on the kind of research you're doing, you'll find it super useful. And then the last thing I'll say before I turn it over to Zoe is we also have these kind of like sort of more fun, sort of like other things. So you can find a list of every starting pitcher who's pitching on that day and their stat line against the lineup they're going to be facing. And obviously we don't have that data right now because it's spring training, so it's not as relevant. But in the season, when Shohei Ohtani is pitching against the Braves, you would be able to pull that page up and it would show Shohei Ohtani and his stats against every hitter in that lineup that he's faced before. So we do that for all of that day's starting pitchers. You can also go to a players page, and if you want to see their specific matchups, like if you want to see how Barry Bonds did every time he hit against Randy Johnson, you can go into this thing, the Versus Finder, and if you type in those two players, you'll be able to see every single at bat that they had against each other. So I'll do that really quick, and then we can leave it there, just because this is more just like a fun thing. But you can also get sort of graphics that compare players if they're both hitters or both pitchers, and you'd rather see like a stats comparison. Like if I was doing Bonds and McGuire, it would be showing us their stats side by side. But because I did a batter versus a pitcher, it knows that what I'm interested in is how did Bonds do when he faced Randy Johnson. And you can see their combined stat lines on a single season. You can see the career stats, and you can see just a breakdown of every single time these two faced off. And then you can see their batting stats if that's something you're interested in. Probably not super relevant here. So that is my quick sort of like overview of all the stuff you can do on Baseball Reference and StatHead. And I wanted to mention, since y'all are students, StatHead is normally $80 per year, but we have a 50% off for students. So it would only be $40 for a full year of this sort of thing. If that is something you're interested in, you can also sign up for a free trial and try it for, you can also sign up for monthly and try it for free for a month before having to pay for anything. So that's that. And of course, Baseball Reference, always free. No worries there. So that wraps up kind of my half of the presentation, but I think y'all are probably going to be doing a lot more in-depth research than just even what StatHead is. So Zoe's going to show you how to take this stuff off of our site and actually do some really cool stuff with it.
Thanks so much, Jonah. I know, seems like Shohei is like on, so many places as far as like, far as the baseball news. So we're actually going to be messing with some of his stats today. So let me see if I can share my screen. Should be able to. Okay. I think this is the right one. Okay. Let me know if you guys can see.
Yep.
Perfect. Okay. So yeah, this is StatHead Baseball. This is exactly where like we like we left off with Jonah. So basically, I want to see, well, starting off, when you go onto a StatHead search, it can be super helpful to have like some form of a question to, that you'd like to find more about. So I would really like to know, as far as for the games Shohei pitches, like does he like bat quite as well like the next day? So like that sort of question. So so essentially I'm just going to go into the game finders here. So we'll start off with the player batting. Okay. And so for this case, I'm going to restrict this to Ohtani, which is a super nice feature for things like this. And so, okay, so that's still sorting by home run. I don't exactly want that. So I'm going to sort by date, actually. So there should then be like descending. And like these are like the batting games that he's participated in. So like Jonah mentioned, this export data menu here, this is going to be your like best friend as far as moving like data into something like Python, which is what we'll be doing today. So So basically here, I will click this, like Jonah showed, it's super nice. You can cut off these tables. So basically, there's so much data here. There's a bunch of stuff that I don't necessarily, care to look at today. So for instance, like the ranking here, it's sorted by date, so I don't really need that very much. So I'll clear that column. I don't really care about like this here yet, and like we know it's the same team every time. I'm not super interested in like the result of it, so I'll clear that guy out. And then I think over here, like position, since we know it's either DH or pitcher, we don't really need to have that. So okay, so now my table looks pretty clean. So what I would do here is put this into like comma separated values, because that's like a super simple format that most like data entry things can take in pretty easily. So once you do that, you'll see essentially like this is like the table like broken down into these little like values like you can copy. So I'm gonna do this. I will show, because I have some of this stuff prepared already, but this is a Jupyter notebook. It's a super useful Python tool for being able to show graphs, show tables instead of just command line stuff. It can be kind of hard to see. So what I would do here would be I would paste this in. So there's a bunch of stuff here, right? So to actually use for our purposes, we don't really want to have like these like blank lines or any of this extra things here, because essentially what the comma separated values does is it basically like tells like Python like, okay, like player, that's the first column, date is here, and so on and so forth. So if we have like more stuff in between, it doesn't really know how to handle that. So for this case, we want to cut that down now. So I'll cut that here. We do want to keep like that top row, because once we actually move it into Jupyter, like this will show up for the column headers, like they'll be named for us, which is super nice. So then I'll go back down here, and yeah, here's the source, which like whenever you do stuff with us, yeah, sourcing is always super helpful for us. Okay, so like you'll see, this is just 200 rows, which seems kind of, clearly he's played more games than this. So what we do is we limit results basically to like 200 per page, which is just, if you did more, like the servers would be like really over exerted. So we limit it to like 200 per time, but there's nothing bad there, because like then you would just hit the next page here. So once you hit next page, that brings up like the next 200. So unfortunately, it's a few more clicks, but it's really not a ton more extra work, which is really nice for this case. So I would say here, okay, I'm gonna cut those out again. I don't want age or team or opponent or result or position. Okay. So like the important thing is to like match like the same columns like when you're going to do this step, because what you can do to like join this data set is start the comma separated thing here. You copy the whole thing, and then once you paste that into like the bottom of the text file here, essentially like you'll see where it kind of breaks off, right? So clear this row here for the column names, because we don't need that anymore. And then if we clear that out and then go back down and clear this guy, it's like just like we had 400 rows. So that's kind of the way you can piece this together. Shohei, I think, has about like 700 or something like batting games. So I currently have like a CSV for like his stats set up already. This was following like the same steps. Excuse me. And then same with the pitching. I did a very similar thing. I can show you quickly. It's like you got to go to the separate finder, because obviously baseball was not made for people who pitch and bat in the same game. Well, I should say. So I will, confine this for, if I can spell here. I will confine this to him. And so what I would end up doing here is the same thing, like modify, export the table, clear the things that I don't really need to see today. I don't really care about the decision either. So then this would basically be like the comma separated values then for that table. Cool. Okay. So once you have like your text files saved, I really like Jupyter notebooks. Like I kind of mentioned. So we're just gonna kind of step through one of like my notebooks here just to kind of show you some other things you can do. So basically, Panda is really nice because that kind of like has the table like structure you can use. So essentially, you would import pandas to be able to use it in Python for your project here, and then I have this in the same stat, but same cell. Sorry, but the read CSV method is super nice because it takes like that CSV file and like turns it into a table like without you having to do anything else. So like you'll see here, if we hit run to prompt, see everything's all there nicely. And so yeah, there's 715 batting results. And then same with, we would save like the pitching stats and then run that, print that guy again. So now you can see like the pitching side, right? Okay, so I want to kind of classify like these like results based on like whether he like pitched, batted, or both during that game. So the way we can do that is like it's like we can like join these data frames together actually. SQL is normally like what I would use like without Python, but this kind of does the same thing. So essentially here you would say, okay, these date, player additional, those are the ones that like we see are the same between both tables. And so we want to join on that. And then there are certain stats which have like names overlapping. Obviously, like hits, home runs, those sort of things. So like we want to add on like a little underscore B or P, depending on which side it came from. So once we do that, if we run that guy and then show, okay, so now it has a ton of rows, so it's smushed in here, but essentially this now has 39 columns here versus that was only 18 before, or 27. So we know that's together now. So in order to make like the types for the graphs that I would like, I want to have a column which like classifies his like role. So I just said if he gets like both a plate appearance and something pitched, then he did both in the game. And then if he just had like more than 0 innings pitched, like then he's a pitcher, and then if not, batter. So I make that function there because then it's super simple to then add this column back in. So we just apply that guy here, and then once we see, okay, so here's like the more roles over here. So like batter, pitcher, batter, and so forth. So like now that that is the format that I would like it to be in, I'm gonna use Seaborn, which is a fancy, nice graphing package. I won't pretend to know too much about it. So these are just very simple graphs you can kind of see. But you would import that. And then once you import that, you can say, okay, so I would like to see a scatter plot based on like the date for like the number of like hits like he gets when he hits that day. So unfortunately, I don't know how to actually know the way to like limit this super nicely. As you can see, these date values just get all gummed up. But essentially, you can do a limit here. So if I say I want to show, I guess these first like 25 results here, that would kind of show, okay, these are just the batting ones, and so on like that. And I really like these pair plots here. It's cool because like you'll see, it'll be able to like spawn up different charts based on like each like variable. Excuse me. So you can look for like relationships. So I see here like, oh, this one to me looks pretty interesting to see the way like the strikeouts like pitched versus like for the for the innings pitched, that for each like role there, because the green is the pitcher, the orange is if he did both in a game. So then this type of plot here, I don't really know how much information this means. You can kind of see, I guess there's a sharper turn between strikeouts versus inning pitch, like when he's like just pitching. I'm sure like you guys would be able to have a bunch cooler thing from me. So I will actually link here, because I know that I ran through this super fast, but I have a drive here which has this notebook in the nice PDF form, so you can see everything like that. There's a Python notebook file there, and then also from the past few years, I have more demo material here. So another Python notebook, but then this one should have more like detailed explanation if you're interested. So I will link this in the chat now, if I can quit sharing so you guys can have access to that. Where did it go? Where did it go? Okay. Oh man. Okay, copy the link. Here we go. I'm supposed to be the one who knows tech, right? This is embarrassing. Okay. So yes, that's kind of my part of it. Yeah, if you guys have a questions now for the both of us, go for it.
Yeah, feel free to drop any questions you have in the chat, whether it's stuff about what you can find on Baseball Reference or StatHead. If it's stuff you'd like us to search for right now, we can certainly do that. Also, any questions you have about how we got started at Baseball Reference, or working in sports, or working for Sports Reference. And in addition to Baseball Reference, we have Basketball Reference, which is more Zoe's where Zoe works these days. We have football, hockey, college sports, and soccer, so we can answer anything like that. It looks like, Zoe, we got a question about Jupyter, and whether that's the industry standard for creating CSV files.
Yeah, so as far as like making CSV files, like those are just like making text files, so that can essentially be made like whatever the code editor you would like. So like VS Code is like my favorite. Sublime, if like these like ring a bell. that's how like you can make those there. Jupyter is like mainly for being able to like make the whole like notebook sheet to like put the graphs in and then like structure things nicely from that front. So that's more what Jupyter's for.
So we got a few questions rolling in. Feel free to keep dropping them in as we're doing this, but the first one I'm seeing here is can you choose the player stats based on what year of their career they're in? Say walk year. So the way StatHead works, there is a filter called year of player's career. So you can search based on the number year in a player's career it is, if it's their 4th or 5th or 6th. But there is no filter for last year of their contract. I think getting contract data in here would be cool in the future, but obviously historic coverage of that is very iffy. So it's probably not something we could ever have with full sort of certainty and completion. But that would be something cool to have. But for now, what you can do is like if you want to see the 7th year of a player's career or the 20th year or something like that, you can do that in there. And then we have another question about, I would love to hear how you both got started at Sports Reference. So Zoe, why don't you go first, and then I can tell my tale.
Yeah. So yeah, joined here in 2021. Like this is actually my first full-time job after school. So I'm super lucky. My background is like more of the software development, computer engineering side. I went to Notre Dame, as you can see in the little thing in the background. But yeah, no, I was, saw this like job opening up, and I was like, there's no shot that like I'll even talk to a person, right? And then, I mean, 3 years in here I am. So super lucky, super fortunate, super thankful for being able to work here.
And I'm largely in the same boat. I was working for a online ergonomic furniture company in Austin, and looking for a bit of a change of pace. And I, visitor of Basketball Reference and Baseball Reference pretty much every day of my life. So I saw the job application and just applied on a whim. And one great thing about Sports Reference is that we have a very thorough and rigorous job application process. So when you send us a resume, we review it. We read every single one. We take great care to move people through the process and try to identify the very best people. We're very rigorous and very careful about that. For those of you all who are still in school, it's unfortunately too late this year, but I do want to mention that we have an internship program. So every summer we hire around like 6 to 7, maybe 8 interns. Some of them do data work for us. Some of them do engineering. Some of them do marketing. Some of them do product design. So if you are at all interested, I would really encourage you to apply. We usually take applications for that around late December or through January. So keep an eye out on our website for that if that is something you're interested in. And then obviously when we're doing jobs like that's how Zoe and I got on. That's how most people get hired, is just sending in the resume. So yeah. The next question we have is a question about pitcher data battery combinations. Can you get data on that? And you actually can. And you don't even need StatHead. We have that on Baseball Reference. So I'll show you really quickly how to do that. If I can go back to sharing my screen here. So you should be seeing my guy Spencer Strider, his Baseball Reference page right now. If you go to splits, so this is for any pitcher. I just picked Strider, but you can do this for basically any pitcher who we have game logs and play-by-play data for. If you go to their splits page and you scroll all the way down to the bottom, you'll see that there's a split by catcher. So you can see their stats with the different catchers who catch them. So here with Strider, you can see his splits with Travis d'Arnaud were actually a little higher than when he had Sean Murphy catching him, which is probably what you would expect, given Sean Murphy is one of the best defensive catchers in baseball. And then on the catcher side, you can't see the breakdown by individual pitcher, although I think you can probably do that on the team pitching split page if you want to see like how the team catches with JT Realmuto versus how they pitch with his backup. But under his advanced stats, if you sort of look a little bit further down, or it's under fielding, sorry, you go to advanced stats and then you go to fielding. We have all the sort of like pitch framing, catching type of defensive stats. So we have all of that stuff, both on the catcher side and the pitcher side. All that's on Baseball Reference. You don't even need to mess with StatHead to get to that. So that's cool. And then our next question is Jupyter Hub free to download or use, or is that something that needs to be purchased?
Yeah, so it's totally free. I just like linked like the document within that Drive folder, which explains kind of more for the technical side, how you go about downloading Jupyter Hub, all that stuff. That's probably like the more succinct explanation for the questions. So I will say, yeah, feel free to check those out, and should hopefully be helpful. I don't know if I left anything too old in there. I don't know.
And we've got a couple more of these sort of like technical questions. So can you directly load StatHead data into R or Python through specific packages / libraries, or do you have to export those specific data tables from StatHead and import the CSV?
Yeah, so there's no like, I guess, direct I think Python, well, for Python, this is probably your most direct way. I think there's probably a bunch of like Python packages. I feel like there's probably one, like PyBaseball, like those kind of things. Some of those actually, query like the site and then like bring stuff to you. So there's that. And I think for R, I'm not as familiar with R, but I know there's some other really good resources there being able to pull data more directly than this.
And then we had a question about, could you go more in depth about the use of pandas?
So I wish that I knew more about pandas. It's a super powerful tool, basically, with those table stuff. It's like really helpful to be able to make like graphs like that. It's very powerful, and it's something which it's like not too hard to like start into, but there's like so much to learn with it. There's so many super cool things like that are there, but it's a bit over my head, unfortunately. So yeah, explore that a little bit. Yeah.
We got another question about what makes someone stand out when we receive resumes. And that's a great question because we get a lot of resumes whenever we have a job opening. And so I think the two things that we're really keeping in mind are, at least on my side, and then Zoe, I'm interested to hear what you think about it. But for me, when I'm doing this, I'm looking for like, can the person do the job that we're looking for them to do? And, in every job application, there's a list of like must-have objectives for every job that we're sort of putting out there. So we'll want to see some kind of evidence that you can hit those must-meet objectives, which can depend on the job. For our interns, we're not asking you to have 10 years of engineering experience because that's obviously ridiculous. We just want to know that you're pursuing some kind of coursework or some kind of extracurricular or intern activity that is leading you in a direction where you're learning those skills, and that it's something that you're interested in doing. For full-time jobs, it might be experience, it might be sort of projects or stuff, but you'll want to include on the resume anything that's relevant that can show us that you can do the job. And then the other thing I'm looking for is like, does this person want to be here? Do they want to do this job? Are they passionate about working in sports? Are they passionate about working in this role? Are they, because sometimes we'll get people who want to go into sports, but maybe they want to go into sports in more of a team sort of way, or sports management or the kinds of stuff that like we don't really do. So even though they might be a good candidate, it's just not a great fit. So like, are they going to be a good fit, and are they, you know, interested in doing the kind of stuff they would do? And then what sort of proof do I have that you can actually do this job? Zoe, what about you?
Yeah, so I would say as far as things that like stand out from the engineering side, like the thing is like we get a bunch of applications which are very, you know, cookie cutter. And like those, you know, those normally kind of get just put by. I would I would say just make sure like you know like read like the job description, and as long as like you can kind of show like those like requirements there, that's the main thing we care about. And yeah, I would say even if you just you know check out the site somewhat, it's like if you can like show us like you've tailored like this application for us, that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, that's a great point. And one last thing that I can't stress this enough: do not have Chat GPT write your cover letter. We can tell, and we reviewing the intern applications this last year, there were lots of people who used Chat GPT to write their prompt, and they did not move on to the interview phase, unfortunately. So just something to keep in mind, a word of warning. It might get there eventually, but I feel like Chat GPT is still not quite there yet. And speaking of that, I see a question here: how does the company address ethical concerns related to AI in baseball, such as maintaining the integrity of the game and ensuring fair play? What are emerging AI technologies that could have significant impact on the future of baseball analytics? So I would say as a company, we don't really have like an official stance on any of this. So Zoe and I are kind of more just firing off as two individuals here. So I'm happy to weigh in. Zoe, I'm not sure if you have any thoughts. I don't want to, you know.
Yeah, I mean, same here. This would just be like me, you know, speaking as me. I would think probably like machine learning, like calculations. I'm sure, you know, people are, you know, trying to find like the formula to, you know, predict like the best baseball players. So I think probably like the AI stuff would kind of go from that front. But yeah, as far as here, we don't have a stance officially. So
I think one potential thing, area, sort of emerging area that I could see maybe coming into play for us down the line is if AI gets to the point where it can help us with sort of the research aspect, filling in old box scores that are missing, filling in stats that are missing. You know, like I mentioned, we have the Seamheads Negro League data set, but that set still, you know, there's still box scores that we would love to have. There are non-league games that we would love to have. And the process of putting that together largely involves going to libraries and looking at microfilm and digging through old newspapers. And that's the sort of thing, and even knowing which towns to look in that might have these resources to begin with. So that's the sort of thing that when I read about AI, I'm like, oh, if it could get to a point where like it could help with stuff like that, you know, that would really help in that sense. But you know, certainly it's one of those things that I think our bosses probably worry about more than us, to be honest. So those were all the questions in the chat. Are there any last questions before we take off? Oh, a quick one here. Are positions location-based or remote? They're basically entirely remote. We have an office in Philadelphia, but none of our employees are really expected to go in. So Zoe, where are you? You're in sort of the Midwest, right?
yeah, I'm in basically like South Bend, Indiana, pretty close to Notre Dame actually. So
And I am in Philly, but the rest of my team, there are people in Boston, in Minnesota, in California. Some of our employees work in Canada and in India. So we are a totally remote workplace, which is cool and very, very interesting and very fun. But we do try to get together a couple times a year, and I feel like we have a very active Slack, so we do still try to build that camaraderie. So yeah, so I guess that's it. Unless anyone has any last questions, but thank you all so much for having us. We love doing this every year, and it's really great getting to talk to you all, and hope you enjoy the rest of your time here at the Analytics Conference.
Zoe and Jonah, you guys are awesome. We appreciate you being here. Jonah, I'm gonna need one of those hoodies that you got on that Sports Reference hoodie. That's gonna need one of those.
This is the most comfortable hoodie I own. Not to brag, but
I'll see Sean Foreman tomorrow. I'll talk to him, see if we can get that going. Well, we appreciate you both being here so much.